The lights in the spiral assembly dimmed as the holographic display came to life. Hundreds of alien representatives sat in their designated sections, their various forms creating a strange rainbow of colors and shapes across the massive chamber. The space station orbited Vertex Prime, a neutral world where no single species held power. This was where the galaxy made its most important decisions. Ambassador Thalvik stood at the central podium, his scaled skin reflecting the blue light from the hologram. He was Krethian, a species known for their military strength and rigid sense of order. Today he had called this emergency session for one reason: humanity. "Watch closely," Thalvik said, his voice echoing through the chamber. The hologram showed human soldiers moving through a space station. They moved with frightening efficiency, their weapons raised, their faces hidden behind dark helmets. Explosions lit up the corridors. Screams could be heard in the background. This is what humans call a rescue operation. 37 civilians died in the crossfire. Murmurs spread through the assembly. Some species shifted nervously in their seats. Humans had joined the galactic community only 50 years ago, and in that short time they had established colonies on 12 worlds. Their expansion was aggressive. Their military was powerful. Many species feared what would come next. "The human problem must be addressed," Thalvik continued. "They are violent, unpredictable, and dangerous. I propose immediate sanctions on all human colonies and a restriction on their military expansion." Several ambassadors voiced their agreement. The Krethians had built a coalition of species who shared their concerns. It seemed like the vote would pass easily. Then a voice interrupted the discussion. It was soft, almost musical, yet it carried clearly through the entire chamber. "If I may speak?" Every head turned. The voice belonged to a being who stood in the section reserved for the Villani. Her name was Hana, and she was unlike any other representative in the room. The Villani were humanoid in basic shape, but their skin glowed with soft bioluminescent patterns that changed color with their emotions. Right now, Hana's skin showed gentle waves of blue and green, colors of calm and curiosity. The Villani were famous throughout the galaxy. For 10,000 years, they had never fought a single war. They had no weapons, no military, no concept of violence. They were the most peaceful species anyone had ever encountered. When the Villani spoke on matters of morality, everyone listened. "Speaker Hana," the assembly chairman said, surprised. "The Villani rarely participate in such debates. What is your concern?" Hana stepped forward gracefully. Her robe seemed to flow like water. "I have watched Ambassador Thalvik's presentation with great interest. However, I notice that all the evidence shows only one aspect of humanity. We see their weapons, their soldiers, their capacity for violence. But this is incomplete." Thalvik's scales bristled with irritation. "What more do we need to see? The evidence speaks clearly." "Does it?" Hana's skin shifted to show patterns of yellow, the Villani color for questioning. "My people have learned over many centuries that to judge a species one must look beyond their surface actions. We must understand their hearts, their values, their true nature. I request permission to visit Earth and the human colonies. Let the Villani observe them directly. Then we will share our findings with this council." The chamber erupted in discussion. The idea was unusual, but the Villani had never led the galaxy astray. Their moral authority was beyond question. After a long debate, the council agreed. Hana and a small delegation would visit human space. They would return in 3 months with their report. 2 weeks later, Hana arrived on Earth with 2 other Villani observers. Minho was a scientist who studied other species' cultures. Jiwan was a philosopher who specialized in understanding different approaches to peace. Together they stepped off their ship at the landing platform in Seoul, one of Earth's major cities. They were greeted by Kyung-soo, a human diplomat assigned to host them. He was middle-aged with kind eyes and graying hair. When he bowed respectfully, Hana noticed something the Krethians never showed in their footage: genuine warmth. "Welcome to Earth," Kyung-soo said with a smile. "We are deeply honored by your visit. The Villani are respected throughout the galaxy, and we hope to show you that humans are more than what some believe." Hana expected to be taken to military bases or shown displays of human power. Instead, Kyung-soo took them to a museum. It was a place dedicated to human history, with artifacts from thousands of years of civilization. But this was not a museum of glory. It was a museum of sorrow. This is the Memorial of Remembrance, Kyung-soo explained as they walked through quiet halls. We built it so we would never forget the cost of violence. The Villani saw displays showing ancient wars, terrible weapons, and the suffering they caused. There were images of destroyed cities, starving children, mass graves. Minho's skin turned dark purple, the color of distress. Humans had fought each other for thousands of years before reaching the stars. But then they saw something else. Between each display of violence was a display of healing. Peace treaties signed after terrible wars. Enemies becoming friends. People from different nations working together to rebuild. Memorial services where former soldiers wept for those they had killed. We remember both, Kyung-soo said quietly. The evil we did and the good we learned to do instead. Every human child visits this museum. We teach them that we have the capacity for terrible things, but we also have the choice to be better. Ji-won studied a particular display showing a moment from Earth's history when nuclear war almost destroyed the planet. But humans had stopped themselves at the last moment, choosing survival over victory. You came so close to extinction, she observed. Yes, Kyung-soo nodded. And that taught us the most important lesson. Having power is not the same as using it. Sometimes the hardest choice is to hold back. To choose restraint when you have the ability to destroy. Over the next few days, the Villani saw more of Earth. They visited parks where human children played with alien children, their laughter universal despite their different languages. They saw hospitals where human doctors treated patients from a dozen species. They watched artists create beautiful paintings and sculptures. They attended a concert where music made the audience cry with joy. Minho was particularly fascinated by human emotions. They cry, he said to Hana one evening. I have never seen a species express emotion so openly. They cry for strangers, for injustices that do not affect them personally, even for beauty that moves them. Hana had noticed this too. The Villani showed emotion through their skin colors, a more controlled expression. But humans wore their hearts openly. They laughed, they cried. They showed anger and love and fear without trying to hide it. It was raw and honest in a way that made Hana uncomfortable. It reminded her of something, though she was not yet ready to admit what. On their 5th day on Earth, something happened that changed everything. Kyung-soo took them to a government building where human leaders were debating a new policy. A colony world had requested military protection against pirates. Some leaders argued for sending warships. Others argued for negotiation. The debate was fierce, with people shouting and arguing passionately. You allow such disorder in your government? Ji-won asked, surprised. Most species had more controlled political systems. Kyung-soo smiled. We call it democracy. Everyone gets to voice their opinion, even if others disagree. It is messy and loud and sometimes frustrating, but it means that decisions are made by many voices, not just one. It helps prevent any single person from having too much power. In the end, the human leaders voted to send ships, but only for defensive purposes. If the pirates attacked, human forces would respond, but they would not seek out the pirates to destroy them. Protection, not aggression. That night, Hana stood on a balcony overlooking Seoul. The city lights spread out like stars below her. Minho and Ji-won joined her. What do you think? Minho asked. Hana's skin showed swirling patterns of many colors, an expression of confusion and deep thought. I think, she said slowly, that we do not understand humans at all, and I think that Ambassador Thalvik understands them even less. They are not what I expected, Ji-won agreed. They have such capacity for violence, yet they build museums to mourn it. They argue and fight with words instead of weapons. They cry for others' pain. There is something here, Hana said, watching the city below. Something important that we need to understand. We have only begun to see the truth about humans. She did not know it yet, but that truth would change everything for both the Villani and the entire galaxy. The transport ship carried the Villani delegation away from Earth toward the outer colonies. Hana watched through the viewport as the blue planet grew smaller. She had seen much in the past week, but she knew it was not enough. Earth was humanity's home, the world they had civilized over thousands of years. She needed to see how humans behaved in the newer colonies, the rough edges of their expanding civilization. Their first stop was New Jeju, an agricultural world that humans had settled only 15 years ago. When they arrived, Hana was struck by how green everything was. Fields of crops stretched to the horizon, interspersed with forests that had been carefully planted. It looked peaceful, almost like a garden. Do-hyun met them at the landing pad. He was a farmer, his hands rough from work, his face weathered by sun and wind. He wore simple clothes and smiled easily. "Welcome to New Jeju," he said. "We don't get many important visitors out here. Mostly just us farmers and the refugees." "Refugees?" Minho asked. "Come, I'll show you," Do-hyun said, leading them to a transport vehicle. They drove through farmland for 20 minutes. Hana noticed that the fields were divided into sections, each growing different crops. Some were earth plants like rice and wheat. Others were clearly alien vegetation, colors and shapes she did not recognize. "That section is for the Torvin," Do-hyun explained, pointing. "They're a species that lost their homeworld in a civil war 15 years ago. About 5,000 of them settled here. They eat a specific type of fungus that only grows in acidic soil, so we modified that area to match their needs." "You changed your own world for refugees?" Ji-won asked. Do-hyun looked surprised by the question. "Of course. They needed a home. We had space. It would be wrong to let them starve just because they eat different food than we do." They visited the Torvin settlement that afternoon. The aliens were shorter than humans, with thick gray skin and large eyes. They lived in dome-shaped buildings clustered around their fungus farms. When they saw Do-hyun, they greeted him warmly. Children ran up to him, chattering in their language while holding up drawings they had made. "Do-hyun teaches at their school," one of the adult Torvin explained through a translator. "He helps our children learn human language and culture, and he brings them treats from his farm." The alien smiled, showing rows of small teeth. "He is a good friend." Later, over dinner at Do-hyun's house, Hana asked him why he spent so much time helping the refugees. "You could focus on your own farm, make more profit. Why dedicate your time to others?" Do-hyun thought about this while chewing his food. "My grandmother once told me a story," he said finally. "During a terrible war on Earth long ago, her family had to flee their home. They walked for weeks with nothing but what they could carry. They would have died, but strangers in a foreign land took them in, strangers who had no reason to help, who risked punishment for sheltering refugees. But they did it anyway because it was right." He looked at Hana directly. "I am alive because of those strangers' kindness. How could I do any less for others?" The next stop was Sejong Station, a massive research facility orbiting an uninhabited planet. Here, scientists from dozens of species worked together studying everything from astronomy to xenobiology. The station coordinator was Yunbi, a sharp-minded woman who seemed to know everything happening on the station at once. "We have 300 researchers here," Yunbi explained as she gave them a tour. "Humans make up only 30%. The rest are from 40 different species. We share all our discoveries freely with the galactic community." She took them to her own laboratory, where she was studying samples of alien microorganisms. "This is from a planet in the outer rim," she said, showing them containers with strange glowing specimens. "The Dravek Corporation wanted to strip mine that world for rare minerals. But I proved that these microorganisms are a unique form of life that exists nowhere else in the galaxy. Because of this research, the Galactic Council declared the planet a protected nature preserve." "You prevented your own species from profiting?" Minho asked. Yunbi looked at him with confusion. "It would have been wrong to destroy something irreplaceable just for money. These organisms have existed for millions of years. They have as much right to their world as we do to ours." That evening, Ji-won raised a concern with Hana. "They show us only the good parts. Every species has darkness. Where is the human darkness?" Hana had been thinking the same thing. The next morning she asked Kyung-soo directly. "We have seen human kindness and human science, but Ambassador Thalvek's footage showed violence and destruction. Are you hiding that side from us?" Kyung-soo's expression became serious. "No," he said. "We do not hide from our darkness. If you want to see it, I will show you, but I warn you it is not easy to witness." He arranged for them to visit a different kind of memorial facility. This one was on Earth, in a place called Jaehwan Memorial Center, named after a historian who had dedicated his life to preserving the truth about human violence. The guide who met them was also named Jaehwan, the grandson of the memorial's founder. He was young but spoke with gravity beyond his years. "What you are about to see is difficult," he told them. "But it is important. If we forget what we are capable of, we might do it again." The memorial was vast. It documented every major conflict in human history, every genocide, every atrocity. The Villani saw images of humans killing other humans over religion, over resources, over skin color. Over nothing at all. They saw weapons designed for maximum suffering. They saw the results of hatred taken to its ultimate conclusion. Minho's skin turned nearly black with horror. Jiwon had to sit down, overwhelmed by the documented cruelty. Even Hana, who thought she had prepared herself, felt sick. But Jaewon did not let them look away. "This is what we are," he said quietly. "This capacity lives in every human. We do not deny it. We do not pretend it does not exist. We study it, we remember it, and we teach every generation about it." "Why?" Hana asked, her voice barely a whisper. "Why force yourselves to remember such pain?" "Because forgetting would be worse," Jaehwan replied. He led them to another section of the memorial. This part showed what came after the wars. Peace treaties, yes, but also something more. Truth and reconciliation commissions where victims confronted their tormentors. Reparations paid to those who had suffered. Former enemies working together to rebuild. "We remember the evil so we can recognize it if it starts again," Jaehwan explained. "But we also remember that we chose to stop. That we chose to make peace. That we chose to be better." He showed them a quote carved into the wall in dozens of languages. "Those who cannot remember the past are condemned to repeat it." "You could have erased these memories," Jiwon said. "Made yourselves forget the capacity for such violence." "Some suggested that," Jaewon admitted. "After we developed genetic engineering, there were proposals to remove human aggression from our biology, make us fundamentally peaceful. But we rejected it. Why?" Hana asked, though she was beginning to suspect the answer. "Because peace without the choice to be violent is not really peace," Jaehwan said. "It's just inability. Every day, every human wakes up with the capacity to hurt others, and every day most of us choose not to. That choice made billions of times every day, that is what peace really means." Hana felt something crack inside her. She excused herself and walked outside, Minho and Jiwon following. They stood in a garden filled with flowers, a stark contrast to the darkness they had just witnessed. "I must tell you something," Hana said, her skin showing chaotic patterns of many colors, "something about the Villani that is not widely known." She told them the secret that few outside the Villani knew. Thousands of years ago, her people had not been peaceful. They had fought wars just like many species. But their science had advanced to the point where they could modify themselves genetically. They held a great debate and finally decided to alter their own biology. They removed the parts of their brain that allowed aggression, that created the capacity for violence. "We did not overcome violence," Hana said, her voice shaking. "We deleted it. We removed our ability to even conceive of harming another being. I thought this was our greatest achievement. But now you see humans struggling with their nature every day," Jiwon said softly, "choosing peace despite their instincts. Is it truly peace if you have no capacity for war?" Hana asked. "We Villani cannot fight, but is that morality or just programming? Humans can fight. They can kill. They have done terrible things, but they choose not to. They choose compassion despite their nature, not because of it." Minho's skin showed deep blue, the color of profound thought. "Perhaps that is why their peace is stronger than ours. Our peace is absolute but passive. Theirs is active, chosen, fought for daily." Before Hana could respond, an urgent message arrived on Kyung-Soo's communicator. His face went pale as he read it. "There has been an attack," he said, his voice tight. "A Krethian battle fleet attacked a research vessel in the borderlands. The ship was destroyed. 17 researchers were killed." He paused, looking at Hana with pain in his eyes. 5 of them were Villani. The news spread quickly. Within hours, every human world knew about the attack. The Villani delegation was rushed back to Earth as a security precaution. The galaxy waited to see how humanity would respond. 3 months after leaving Earth, Hana stood once again at the central podium of the Spiral Assembly. The chamber was packed, more crowded than she had ever seen it. Every species wanted to hear what the Villani had learned about humanity. The weight of their expectations pressed down on her like physical force. Ambassador Thalvek sat in the Krethian section, his scaled face unreadable. He had spent the past months building support for sanctions against humanity. The attack on the research vessel had strengthened his position. Many species now believed humans were too dangerous to allow unfettered expansion. Hana's skin glowed with steady blue light, the color of calm determination. "I have spent 3 months observing humanity," she began. "I have visited their worlds, spoken with their people, and studied their history. I have seen things that disturbed me deeply. Murmurs of agreement rippled through the assembly. Thalvik leaned forward, anticipation clear in his posture. But perhaps not for the reasons you expect, Hana continued. Yes, humans have a capacity for violence. Their history is stained with blood. They have committed atrocities that would horrify any civilized species. This is all true. She paused, letting the words settle. But I have also learned something else. Something that changes everything. The chamber fell silent. Even the translation system seemed to hold their breath. Humans are not violent by nature, Hana said. They are violent by capability. Every day, every human makes a choice. They can harm others, but they choose not to. They can take what they want by force, but they choose cooperation instead. They can destroy, but they choose to build. This is not weakness. This is strength of a kind I did not know existed. Thalvik rose from his seat. The Villani are being deceived by human manipulation. They show you gardens and museums while building weapons in secret. No, Hana said firmly. They showed me their weapons. They showed me their capacity for destruction. They did not hide it. A human named Jaewon took me to memorials that documented every evil thing his species has done. They teach their children about their own capacity for cruelty so those children will choose better. She gestured, and a hologram appeared showing images from her visit. Human children playing with alien children. Scientists from multiple species working together. The memorial walls covered in names of the dead, with humans weeping before them. The Villani have been the moral voice of this galaxy for 10,000 years, Hana continued. We have maintained this position because we are peaceful. We have never fought a war, never raised a weapon, never harmed another being. But I must now confess something. Our peace is not earned. It is programmed. Shocked whispers spread through the assembly. Even Minho and Jiwon looked at Hana with surprise. She had not told them she would reveal this secret publicly. Long ago, my ancestors modified themselves genetically, Hana explained. They removed the neurological capacity for aggression. We cannot fight because we were designed not to fight. We did not overcome violence. We erased the possibility of it from our minds. Her skin flickered with colors of shame. Humans could do the same. They have the technology. Some even suggested it. But they refused. Why would they refuse such a gift? Someone called out. Because they understand something we forgot, Hana replied. Peace without the capacity for war is not morality. It is simply inability. True peace comes from having the power to destroy and choosing not to use it. Humans make that choice every single day. That is why, despite our 10,000 years of peace, I believe humanity understands peace better than we do. The assembly erupted into chaos. Representatives shouted questions and objections. Thalvik's voice rose above the others. This is madness. The Villani have been compromised. Hana waited for the noise to die down. When she spoke again, her voice was clear and unwavering. There is more. The attack on the research vessel was a calculated provocation. It was meant to force humans into a war that would justify intervention by this council. 5 of my people died in that attack. 5 Villani murdered to prove a political point. She turned to face Thalvik directly. And how did humanity respond? Not with invasion. Not with destruction. They imposed sanctions and demanded justice through legal means. They chose restraint when they had every reason and every capability to choose violence. That is the measure of a species. Hana's skin blazed with bright white light, a color rarely seen, signifying an important declaration. Therefore, the Villani formally propose an alliance with humanity. We offer them our biotechnology, our medical knowledge, and our moral standing in galactic affairs. In return, they will provide protection for Villani worlds and vessels. Together, we will form the Partnership for Cooperative Defense. The assembly exploded into even greater chaos. Half the representatives were shouting support, the other half shouting opposition. The chairman had to activate sonic dampeners to restore order. This is unprecedented, the chairman said once things quieted. The Villani have never taken sides in galactic politics, never aligned with any single species. Are you certain about this? I am certain, Hana replied. For 10,000 years we have remained neutral. We thought this was our virtue, but I have realized that neutrality in the face of evil is not virtue, it is complicity. When the Krethians attacked that research vessel, they sent a message. Peaceful beings have no value in a violent galaxy. We must answer that message. We must show that peace has defenders. Over the next week, the debate raged. The Villani Council met in emergency session to consider Hana's proposal. It passed by a significant majority. Despite the controversy, most Villani agreed with Hana's reasoning. They had remained passive for too long. The treaty was drafted with careful language. Human military forces could only act in defense of Villani or allied interests. Any aggressive action required approval from both species. The Villani would provide humanitarian aid, medical support, and diplomatic representation. It was a partnership based on mutual strengths. When the treaty was signed, Minsu represented humanity. He was an experienced diplomat who had spent years working on interspecies relations. As he and Hana placed their marks on the document, he said something that would be quoted for years to come. "My people have long struggled with our own nature," Minsu said. "We have the capacity for terrible things, and sometimes we do terrible things. But partnering with the Villani gives us something precious: accountability. You will be our conscience, reminding us every day of what we should strive to be, and in return, we promise to be your shield, ensuring that your peaceful way of life can continue safely." But not everyone celebrated the alliance. Ambassador Thalvek stood before the Crethean Council and declared the partnership a threat to galactic stability. "Humans have manipulated the most morally trusted species in the galaxy," he argued. "They use the Villani as a shield to legitimize their expansion. We must act now to contain this threat." The Crethean Empire began mobilizing its military. Thalvek reached out to other species who feared human expansion. The Bracken conglomerate, worried about human competition for resources, joined the coalition. The Novari Alliance, traditionalists who disliked rapid change, added their support. Within weeks, a coalition of 15 species had formed. Calling themselves the Stability Accord, the galaxy polarized. Some species sided with the Human-Villani Alliance, seeing it as a force for progressive change. Others joined the Stability Accord, fearing disruption of the existing order. Many tried to remain neutral, watching nervously as tensions built. On the Villani homeworld, Hana met with human military advisors. Admiral Suho was assigned to coordinate the defense of Villani space. He was a career officer, but his manner was more thoughtful than aggressive. "We need to position fleet assets throughout your territory," Suho explained, pointing to a star map. "Not as an invasion force, but as a rapid response network. If the Krethians attack, we need to be able to reach any Villani world within hours." Hana's skin showed nervous yellow patterns. "I confess, having military vessels in our space feels strange. We have never needed such protection before." "I understand," Suho said gently, "but the galaxy has changed. By allying with us, you have made powerful enemies. We will not let harm come to your people." He paused. "However, I want to be clear about something. Human forces will follow strict rules of engagement. We will use the minimum force necessary. We will protect civilians at all costs, even enemy civilians. We will treat prisoners with dignity. These are not just rules, they are who we are." "That is why we chose to ally with you," Hana replied. "You understand that having power is not the same as abusing it." In the Crethean capital, Thalvek met with military commanders. "The humans will be cautious at first," he told them. "They will try to look reasonable in front of the Villani. But we can force their hand. If we strike hard enough, they will respond with violence. And when they do, the Villani will see their true nature." "What do you propose?" asked Commander Vektar, leader of the Krethian Third Fleet. "Attack Villani Prime," Thalvek said. "Their homeworld. The humans think they can protect it, but they have not positioned enough forces there yet. Strike quickly before they are ready. The Villani will panic and the humans will overreact with excessive force. The galaxy will see them for the warmongers they truly are." The Crethean Third Fleet emerged from faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Villani Prime system. 60 warships arranged themselves in battle formation, their weapons powered and ready. On the flagship, Commander Vektar watched the sensor displays with satisfaction. "The humans have only 12 ships in system," his tactical officer reported. "They are in orbit around Villani Prime, clustered in a defensive formation." Vektar smiled, showing his sharp teeth. 12 ships against 60. They cannot possibly win. This will be over quickly. He opened a communication channel to all ships. "All vessels, advance at combat speed. Weapons free. Destroy the human fleet." The Crethean ships accelerated forward, closing the distance toward the planet. It would take them 30 minutes to reach engagement range. Vektar expected the humans to either run or die bravely. Either outcome served his purposes, but the human ships did not run. They remained in orbit, apparently waiting. When the Crethean fleet reached weapons range, something unexpected happened. "Commander, we are receiving multiple targeting locks," the tactical officer said, confusion in his voice. "Not from the ships, from the planet's surface. Thousands of targeting locks." Vectar frowned. "What do you mean from the planet?" "The Volani have no weapons. Not Volani weapons, sir. Human weapons. They have installations all over the surface. Missile batteries, railguns, energy cannons. The entire planet is covered in them. How is that possible? Our intelligence said the humans had barely any forces here." On the lead human destroyer, Admiral Suho watched the Crethean fleet slow down in confusion. He had spent the past 2 weeks not positioning ships but positioning weapons. While the Cretheans watched for fleet movements, he had quietly landed hundreds of mobile weapon platforms on Volani Prime. The Volani had been nervous about having weapons on their peaceful world, but they had trusted him. "Sir, the Crethean flagship is attempting to communicate," his communications officer reported. "Put them through," Suho ordered. Commander Vectar's face appeared on the screen, his scales bristling with anger. "This is a trick. You are using the Volani homeworld as a weapons platform." "Yes," Suho replied calmly. "Every weapon you see is programmed with precise targeting data. If you fire on us or the planet, you will face return fire from several thousand installations simultaneously. Your ships are tough, but they cannot survive that kind of concentrated attack. You are cowards hiding behind civilians." "No," Suho said. "We are defenders, using the most effective tactics available. You came here to attack a peaceful species. You expected us to meet you in open battle so you could claim we were the aggressors. I will not give you that satisfaction." He leaned forward. "Here is what will happen. You will power down your weapons and withdraw. Or you will attack and we will destroy your fleet. Choose quickly." Vectar's eyes narrowed. "You are bluffing. You would not dare fire from the planet's surface with Volani cities nearby. You might hit civilians." "Every weapon is programmed with precision guidance," Suho countered. "We will not hit civilians, but you are correct that I would prefer not to test that in combat. So I am offering you a peaceful withdrawal. Take it." For a long moment Vectar said nothing. His tactical officer whispered urgently in his ear, showing him calculations. The odds were not good. Even if they destroyed the human ships, the surface installations would tear them apart. "You may have won today," Vectar said finally. "But this is not over." He cut the communication and turned to his crew. "All ships prepare to withdraw." But then something changed. A junior officer at the communications console suddenly cried out, "Commander, incoming transmission from Ambassador Thalvek. Priority override code." Thalvek's face appeared on the screen before Vectar could stop it. The ambassador's expression was intense. "Commander, you will not withdraw. You will attack immediately. That is an order from the civilian authority." "Ambassador, we are outgunned," Vectar protested. "Withdrawing is the sensible tactical decision." "Sensible tactics do not matter," Thalvek snapped. "Political victory matters. If you withdraw now, we lose everything. The galaxy will see Cretheans backing down from humans. Attack. Force them to fire on you with Volani civilians nearby. Even if we lose ships, we win the political battle." Vectar felt cold anger rising in his chest. "You want me to sacrifice my crews for politics?" "I want you to follow orders," Thalvek said. "Attack now or I will have you removed from command for cowardice." The channel closed. Vectar stood frozen, his mind racing. Around him, his bridge crew watched in silence. They had all heard the exchange. "Sir?" his tactical officer asked quietly. "Orders?" Vectar had been a soldier for 40 years. He had always followed orders. But this order felt wrong in a way he could not fully articulate. Still, disobeying would end his career. He opened his mouth to give the attack command. Then a new voice came over the ship-wide communication system. It was Admiral Suho. "Commander Vectar, I have a different offer for you. My ships have the ability to disable your vessels without destroying them. We have cyber warfare capabilities that can shut down your systems. You and your crews can survive this." There was a pause. "I know you have been ordered to attack. I know you face consequences for disobeying, but I am giving you another choice. Stand down, surrender, live. Let us prove that there is a better way than pointless death. He is trying to manipulate you." Thalvek's voice came through again on the override channel. "Ignore him! Attack!" Vectar looked around his bridge. His crew were mostly young, many on their first major deployment. If he ordered the attack, many would die. Not in honorable combat, but in a slaughter designed to score political points. He made his decision. All ships power down weapons, Vectar ordered. Prepare for cyber intrusion. Do not resist. He opened a channel to Suho. I accept your offer, human. We surrender. No! Talvek's scream echoed through the bridge. You are a traitor. I will see you executed for this. Perhaps, Vectar said calmly. But my crew will live. He closed the channel. Over the next 2 hours, human cyber warfare specialists remotely accessed every Crethean ship and disabled their weapons and propulsion systems. Then human vessels moved in, docking with the Crethean ships one by one. Marines boarded, led by Captain Yuna. Yuna was young for a captain, but she had a reputation for level-headedness. When she stepped onto Vectar's bridge, she was armed, but her weapon was lowered. Commander Vectar, by the authority of the Human Villani Alliance, I am placing you and your crew under arrest for attempted invasion. You will be treated according to the protocols of the Galactic Conventions on Warfare. You and your crew will not be harmed. Vectar stood slowly, removing his ceremonial blade and placing it on the command console. In Crethean culture, surrendering one's blade was the ultimate sign of submission. I accept these terms, he said formally. There is one more thing, Yuna said. Under Crethean military tradition, a commander who surrenders has 2 options: face trial or commit ritual suicide to preserve honor. The choice is yours. We will not stop you if you choose the latter. Vectar was surprised. Humans knew about Crethean traditions. He considered his options. Ritual suicide would erase the shame of surrender. But it would also prevent him from testifying about what Thalvek had ordered him to do. I choose trial, he said finally. There are things that must be said about how this battle came to be. News of the battle, or rather the non-battle, spread across the galaxy within hours. The human response had been so precise, so controlled, that not a single life was lost on either side. The Crethean fleet had been captured intact. Footage from both human and Villani sources showed the entire encounter. The reaction was overwhelming. Species that had supported the Stability Accord began withdrawing. They had signed up to contain aggressive warmongers, not to support attacks on peaceful species. When they saw humans offering surrender terms, treating prisoners with dignity, and avoiding unnecessary death, many questioned what they had been told about human nature. On Villani Prime, Hana stood in the central plaza where millions of Villani had gathered. She had watched the entire battle from the council building. When it was over, when not a single shot had been fired, when the Crethean crews were taken safely into custody, she had felt something she had never felt before. Pride in military action seemed impossible for a Villani. Yet here she was, proud of what the humans had done. They kept their promise, Minho said beside her. They protected us without excessive violence. More than that, Jiwan added. They gave the Cretheans a choice. They offered mercy to an enemy who came to destroy us. Hana's skin glowed bright blue with satisfaction. This is what I hoped to see. Power restrained. Victory without cruelty. This is what peace looks like when it has defenders. The trials began 3 weeks later on the neutral station of Vertex Prime. Judges were selected from non-aligned species to ensure fairness. The Crethean government was invited to send cultural observers to ensure their traditions were respected. The prosecutor was a human named Jisoo, a legal expert who specialized in interspecies law. She presented evidence of the attack plan, communications between Thalvek and Vectar, and testimony from crew members who had been ordered to attack despite tactical disadvantages. 2 years had passed since the Battle of Villani Prime, though calling it a battle seemed wrong when no shots were fired. The galaxy had changed in ways no one could have predicted. The space station where Hana now worked bore the name Unity Station, built jointly by 47 species who had joined the Cooperative Security Council. Hana stood in her office reviewing reports from across the galaxy. Piracy had decreased by 70%. Border conflicts were being resolved through arbitration instead of warfare. 3 civil wars had ended through diplomatic intervention, backed by the credible threat of peacekeeping forces. The Council did not seek to control the galaxy, but it had become the place where species came to solve problems. Speaker Hana, her assistant Sujin called from the doorway. The delegation from the Crethean Republic has arrived. They are ready for the admission hearing. Hana felt a flutter of nervousness. The Crethean Republic, formed after reformers overthrew the old military regime, had applied to join the Cooperative Security Council. It was the most controversial application yet. Many species still remembered the attacks, the fear, the deaths. Could Krethians really change? The hearing room was packed. Representatives from all 47 member species filled the seats. At the front sat Vectar, the former commander who had surrendered his fleet. He now served as the Krethian Republic's Minister of Defense, a position that would have been unthinkable under the old regime. Beside Hana at the leadership table sat Minsu, who now served as co-chair of the council. They had learned to work together so well that many species considered them a single unit, the visible symbol of the human-Vellani alliance. Minister Vectar, Minsu began, your application has generated significant debate. Many species question whether Krethian culture can truly embrace the principles of cooperative security. What do you say to their concerns? Vectar stood, his bearing still military but somehow softer than before. I understand their doubts, he said. For centuries, Krethian society glorified military strength above all else. We believed that power was the only currency that mattered, but the events of 2 years ago taught us otherwise. He activated a holographic display showing images from Krethian worlds, schools where young Krethians learned about diplomacy and conflict resolution, memorials to the victims of old wars, community centers where former soldiers taught peace studies. We have spent 2 years transforming our society, Vectar continued. It has not been easy. Many old guard military officers resisted. Some attempted a coup 6 months ago, but the people rejected them. A new generation of Krethians has grown up watching what happened at Vellani Prime. They saw that surrender with honor is possible, that mercy is strength, that there are victories that do not require death. Words are easy, said the representative from the Novari Alliance. How do we know this change is genuine? You do not, Vectar admitted. We can only prove ourselves through actions over time. But consider this. The old regime would never have applied to join this council. They would have seen it as submission. The fact that we are here, asking to be part of something larger than ourselves, is itself evidence of change. Hana spoke next. I have visited the Krethian Republic 3 times in the past year. I have seen their schools, their communities, their government in action. Yes, some Krethians still hold old attitudes, but the majority, especially the younger generation, genuinely want a different path. Her skin glowed with honest blue. I believe they deserve a chance. The vote was close but ultimately positive. The Krethian Republic became the 48th member of the Cooperative Security Council. When the result was announced, Vectar bowed deeply, a gesture of respect that transcended species. Later that day, Hana visited the colony world of Harmony. It had been established 2 years ago as a joint settlement, with multiple species living together. She wanted to see how the experiment was progressing. The colony was thriving. Vellani engineers had designed bioluminescent buildings that glowed softly at night. Human architects had created parks and public spaces that encouraged interaction. Krethian builders, refugees from the old regime who had fled when the Republic formed, had constructed defensive fortifications that were now being converted into community centers. Hana walked through a market where vendors from a dozen species sold their goods. She saw human children playing with Vellani and Krethian children, their laughter universal despite their different languages. In a small cafe, she found Taehyung, a human technician she had met during her first visit to Earth. Speaker Hana, Taehyung greeted her warmly. I did not know you were visiting today. Please sit. Let me get you something to drink. As they sat together, Taehyung told her about his work. He was part of a team building a memorial to those killed in the research vessel attack 2 years ago. We wanted to create something that honored the dead but also celebrated hope, he explained. A Krethian artist designed it. Your people provided the bioluminescent technology. Humans funded it through donations. May I see it? Hana asked. They walked to the memorial site together. The structure took Hana's breath away. It was a spiral rising 30 meters high, made of translucent material that glowed with soft Vellani bioluminescence. Carved into the spiral were the names of all 17 victims, 5 Vellani and 12 from other species. At the base, water flowed in channels arranged in patterns significant to each victim's culture. It is beautiful, Hana whispered. Kethral, the Krethian artist, said something that stuck with me, Taehyung said. He said that his people spent centuries building monuments to military victories. But this is the first Krethian-designed monument to peace. To him, that means everything. As they stood there, a group of school children arrived with their teacher. The class was mixed: humans, Villani, Krethians, and others. The teacher, an elderly Krethian woman, began explaining the memorial's significance. "These names represent a tragedy," she told the children. "But they also represent a turning point. The violence that killed these people led to the alliance that now protects billions. Remember them not with anger, but with determination to build the future they died for." Hana felt her skin glow with many colors at once, emotions too complex to separate. Pride, sadness, hope, all mixed together. That evening, back on Unity Station, Hana met with the full council leadership. There was concerning news. An unknown armada had appeared at the edge of known space. 3 scouting outposts had been destroyed without warning. No communication had been received from the attackers. "What do we know?" Minsu asked the intelligence officer presenting the briefing. "Very little," the officer admitted. "The ships are large, technologically advanced, and apparently hostile. They have not responded to any hails. They have not taken prisoners or left survivors. They simply destroy everything they encounter and move on." "How many ships?" Hana asked. "Current estimates suggest over 200 vessels, possibly more. They are heading generally toward the core systems. At their current pace, they will reach populated space in approximately 3 weeks." The room fell silent. 200 ships of unknown capability. It was the largest threat the galaxy had faced in generations. Admiral Suho was patched in from his flagship. "We need to prepare defensive positions at key locations. Concentrate our forces where we can make a stand." "No," said a new voice. Everyone turned to see Vectar, who had been sitting quietly in the observers section. "Forgive my intrusion, but I have experience with this type of situation. If we concentrate our forces, we show the enemy exactly where to strike. Instead, we should establish multiple defensive layers, slow them down, learn their capabilities, force them to reveal their strategies." "The minister makes a good point," Suho acknowledged. "We need intelligence more than we need an immediate confrontation." Over the next week, the Cooperative Security Council mobilized its resources. Human fleets moved into position. Villani medical ships prepared for refugees. Krethian engineers began fortifying key worlds. Dozens of other species contributed resources, intelligence, and support. On Unity Station, Hana worked 20-hour days coordinating the response. One night, exhausted, she found Minsu in his office doing the same. "We have built something remarkable," Minsu said, looking at the deployment maps. 2 years ago, each species would have faced this threat alone. Now we face it together. Do you think we can win?" Hana asked. "I think we can survive," Minsu replied. "And sometimes that is victory enough." The first contact with the unknown fleet came at the outer marker, a fortified station on the edge of populated space. Captain Yuna commanded the defense forces there, 20 ships from 7 different species. When the unknown fleet arrived, Yuna broadcast on all frequencies. "Unknown vessels, this is the Cooperative Security Council. We request communication. We mean you no harm, but we will defend ourselves if attacked." The response came not in words but in action. The unknown ships opened fire without warning. But Yuna had learned from Suho's example at Villani Prime. Her forces did not try to win. They fought a delaying action, gathering data on enemy weapons, tactics, and capabilities, then retreated before suffering significant losses. The intelligence was rushed back to Unity Station. Scientists from multiple species analyzed it around the clock. The unknown ships were powerful,